We'll begin tonight in Lagos, where demonstrators participated in the Take It Back nationwide protest against bad governance and restrictions on freedom of expression. While no protester was arrested in Lagos, a minor confrontation when law enforcement officials prevented the demonstrators from approaching the Lagos State Assembly complex was witnessed. News Center's correspondent Aliyu Abubakar provides details in this report.
The day commenced with a marked police presence as the protesters did not congregate by the initially scheduled time of 7 a.m. However, the situation began to evolve around 9 a.m. as demonstrators started to arrive in increasing numbers. Soon after, chants and charges commenced. The protesters, identified as the Take It Back movement, marched with high spirit from Ikeja under the bridge to Allen roundabout, their first stop. Security operatives, including the police, civil defense corps, and Lagos Neighborhood Safety Corps, accompanied the march.
Telling Nigerians there's a matter of time the presidency will become despotic and they will say they will not conduct election and nothing will happen about it.
We are calling for the end of the use of cybercrime to repress free speech. We are calling for the immediate reversal of the military rule that the president has imposed in Rivers State. We are calling for the end to the ongoing demolitions across the country.
Subsequently, the protesters continued their march to the Lagos State Secretariat, which houses the governor's office, and then proceeded towards their final destination, the Lagos State Assembly. Drama ensued when the police barricaded the road leading to the assembly, halting the march's progress.
If you want any representative of the assembly to come and address you or talk to you, we'll send for them and they'll come and talk to you. And not for you to go into that assembly ground in this form.
After a few minutes of waiting and demonstrations, the protesters demanded to be addressed by a high-ranking official from the assembly.
The Lagos State Assembly is currently under lock and key and there's no one in there. How come you're still here and who do you intend to see by coming here?
Because if the Lagos State House of Assembly is going to go on holiday, they must announce publicly. There is no public announcement that the Lagos State House of Assembly is on holidays. So we are here to listen to our representatives. So they will have to tell us today whether the Lagos State House of Assembly is still in vogue or it is on suspension.
Several protesters utilized the opportunity to express their views.
Tinubu should gather his court and tell them to do the needful. Our life is being miserable. How can I be buying for 1,000 naira when I have the resources? It's my resources, see? So it should allow me to enjoy my resources.
This is our country and we cannot continue living as a second-class citizen.
Observing that no officials addressed them, the protesters made their next move known.
Different parts of the country are passing a vote of no confidence on the Lagos State Government.
Yes.
Also, we are passing a vote of no confidence on the president of the country, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We are calling for the immediate release of the protesters, all of them. And again, we are reiterating our call for the immediate resignation of illegal IGP Egwuatu. The government of Tinubu did not accede to this demand. Then, the next time we are coming out, it will be aluta infinito.
The protest dispersed at approximately 12:30 p.m. with a stern warning to the government regarding their demands. In Lagos 4 News Central, Aliyu Abubakar.
We can tell you that the Nigeria police disrupted today's protest organized by the Take It Back movement with tear gas in efforts to swiftly halt the rally. The Centre's National Assembly correspondent, Sage Ibrahim, reports.
Security presence at key entry and exit points in Abuja signaled early signs of restricted movement across the city. The attempt aimed at ending the planned protest was unsuccessful as the demonstrators converged in front of the Transcorp Hilton, a second venue for the protest. Chanting songs of solidarity and carrying placards with different inscriptions expressing their grievances, They called for good governance and the protection of civil liberties. The protesters, led by activists under the Take It Back movement, say the rally was organized to draw national attention to what they describe as the increasing suppression of free speech and the shrinking of Nigeria's civil space.
As we are having this march today, it's happening in Lagos as well. Yes. It's happening in Port Harcourt. Yes. And these ones are rehearsals. Yes. The time will come where all Nigerians will come out and nobody can stop them. Yes. Our program cannot be stopped by police program. Yes. So let them go and make the calls, let them radio to the illegal IGP. Yes. We want to move and nobody can stop us. Yes.
But just as the rally gathered momentum, police officers fired multiple rounds of tear gas canisters into the crowd, forcing demonstrators to run for safety.
They won't kill us. They won't kill us.
Reacting to the incident, a human rights lawyer described the crackdown as unlawful and a violation of constitutional rights.
This IGP Egwuatu, you must be rule of law compliant. Right. You cannot silence us. Right. We will still continue to protest. Right. You have dispatched us with your tear gas, unleashed terror on us, as if you are fighting terrorists. Right. Innocent protesters that only have placards. Right. That is the people who have come to flex muscle on. Whereas the bandits are having free-for-all fight, in the bushes.
With the protests broken up and major roads cleared of security barricades, normalcy returned to parts of the city by noon. However, uncertainty now looms over the next steps for the protest organizers and whether further rallies will hold across other parts of the country. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Sagir Ibrahim.
In Port Harcourt, Rivers State, the Take It Back protest turned violent when the police clashed with protesters. The demonstration, intended to start at Isaac Borough Park, was halted by authorities who directed protesters to move to the Federal Secretariat, 6 kilometers away. The protest was held alongside Bring Back Governor Sim protest organized by the Niger Delta Congress.
The protest in Port Harcourt, Rivers State was dry, comprising the Take It Back protest with a demand for the repeal of the Cybercrime Act and Bring Back Governor Sim protest for the restoration of a democratic rule in Rivers State. The protest, initially set to begin at the Isaac Borough Park, was preemptively blocked by the police, who arrived early to prevent the gathering and ordering them to move to another location.
Stop recording. No, don't stop recording.
We are here to speak against the unconstitutional removal of our elected governor and the Rivers State House of Assembly. We are here to demand a government for the people of Rivers State, because as it stands now, we are without government. This government in Rivers State is alien to our people. It's unconstitutional. And so we are here to demand that our governor comes back to office and lead us appropriately.
Only a handful of demonstrators gathered.
We want to tell the press now that it's illegal to address the press. Where do you want us? Say in front of the press, where do you want us to? I have already told you where you're supposed to go.
After much discussions with the security operatives present at the takeoff point, the police then directed protesters to relocate to a different venue.
It is important for Rivers people to understand, and Nigerians, that what is happening today in Nigeria is actually a rape on democracy. Because there is no reason whatsoever why an elected government will be suspended for no just cause. We are in a democracy, not in a dictatorship. And Rivers people must come out this morning because it is important for them to know that even freedom is not free. You must fight for freedom.
Meanwhile, it took just a few minutes into the procession before chaos erupted and the protesters dispersed by the police in a rather violent and confrontational manner.
Yes! Nobody give us no problem.
How was it for us? The police are shooting!
Yes.
We started the processing from the Ajiboro Park. When we moved from the Ajiboro Park and got to CFC, they came in a war format in extra vehicles and vans and all that and blocked us. And the same Mr. Odo, or whatever his name is, came and said that that we have made a statement we should leave, that we have granted press, we have done enough procession, that we should go. We said no, that we have not even started what we had envisaged, and that we had other plans to proceed, and we also have a route to follow, and we need to follow that particular route. He said no, that we must leave now. And we said, no, we will not leave, that what we are doing is our civil right, and we have the permission of the police to even go ahead with what we are doing. The next thing they started doing, they started shooting tear gas canisters on us. Of course, it was a joint team from both the army, the police, the civil defense. They were all there.
In the meantime, the protesters have promised a comeback to drive home their demands. In Port Harcourt for News Central, Biola Festus.
Many thanks, Biola. To discuss today's events, the protests across the country, I'm joined by public affairs analyst Femi Lawson, journalist Achike Chude, and in the studio we have the national coordinator of Take It Back, Juwon Sonyolu. Thank you very much, Juwon, for joining us, and gentlemen as well, joining us virtually. Let me start with the purpose of these protests. I think you started with the authoritarian rule of the current administration. You talked about misuse of Cyber Crime Act, abuse of human rights, and then this new entrant. I want to know if it's a national consensus to also protest against the state of emergency that was declared in Rivers State.
Oh yes, the demand to protest, the demand to protest the introduction or imposition of military rule in Rivers State is a decision we took at the highest level of our organization because we believe that the government of Tinubu has acted in impunity and in lawlessness to have unlawfully deposed elected government official and then impose military rule in Rivers State. That is nothing short of authoritarianism. And the state of emergency, it's quite funny really, because with the state of the country as it is now, there are several sectors that are in urgent need of state of emergency.
What you hope to achieve? Because you set out agenda. Is the same administration that you are protesting for a response? From what response are you expecting?
No, what we're saying is that the military rule that had been imposed in Rivers State needs to be reversed immediately. It has no place.
And what about the other aspects of your...
It has no place in a democracy.
The other aspect of your request?
Now we're also talking about the repeal of the Cybercrime Act and how government have continued to use it to repress free speech. So we're calling for the end for the end to that. And there is in fact the specific point I'm making with regards to the so-called state of emergency in Rivers State. The way we see it as a continuation of repression of the civic space. And if the government of Tinubu is not stopped now, it's going to do worse, because currently the government...
Sorry to interject, but this is not the first time we're having protests. We had the bad governance protest, we had another protest, and this is another one that you're coordinating. I need you to... sorry, there was a whisper in my ear that distracted me for a bit. I need you to talk to us about do you expect that this protest will elicit the kind of response you want, considering the response that you got from the police today?
Well, what I'll say to that is very simple. When we protested last year, June 12th, when we had the protest last year, June 12th, the government failed to accede to our demands. Right? We came out again 10 days on August. We described it as 10 days of rage. And in like manner, if the government of Tinubu refuses to address the fundamental demands that we've presented before him as it concerns free speech, as it concerns what is presently doing in Rivers State, as it concerns the unlawful demolition of poor homes, especially in places like Obuja, and the general imposition of poor governance in the country, we will be back on the streets. What you've seen today is nothing other than one in action.
All right, just hold on to that thought. We're on a very short break. We'll be right back to continue the conversation. Thank you for staying with us. We have Juan in the studio, but we also have public affairs analyst Femi Lawson joining us virtually, as well as journalist Achike Chude. Gentlemen, thank you again for giving us your time. I want to come to you quickly, Achike, as regards the treatment by the police of today's event. And there were speculations that one journalist was arrested. Can you confirm this?
Well, we find out. We know that journalists are usually at the receiving end of such situations, and so we find out. So we don't want to speculate, but definitely we are going to get that information at least by tomorrow morning. We'll be able to confirm, so that we don't speculate. This is, like I said, the usual fallout of things like this. It would appear that the police has learned nothing and forgotten nothing. You can see from the visuals there, you can follow the processes in the visuals, and you have seen how peaceful, how orderly the protesters have been. And you know, this is what we have always said, because I have been in this kind of a situation several times in the past. Most protests in this country, at least I know, are very, very peaceful. People do not set out to sabotage what they want to achieve with these protests. Protests are done, the basis of, of an objective. They want to achieve something, either to draw the attention of the government to certain issues and to get the government to change direction. And so they will not, and if such protests, result in violence, then they will be sabotaging the very objective that they want to, achieve. And so it is never the protesters that want to sabotage their own protest. It is usually the involvement of the security forces that lead to breakdown of law and order, against peaceful protesters. So it's sad, it's unfortunate, but it would appear that the police seem not to have learned any very serious lessons, unless they are acting on the instructions from other sources to try to create an environment for chaos and anarchy, so that they will not turn back and blame the protesters for breakdown in the rule of law.
I'm curious to know what Femi thinks about this, because today also happens to be National Police Day, and the night prior, the police had issued a statement discouraging protesters from coming out today. Does that, in your view, justify the response that they put out to protesters across the country that came out to express displeasure over how things are with governance?
Thank you. For me, there's no justification whatsoever for anyone, particularly the security agencies, to criminalize protest. Protest is part of democracy. In actual fact, democracy, as it is in the case of Nigeria, is a product of protest. So Nigerians have the right to protest, and nobody, and the court has said this on a number of occasions, and it is very surprising that at every given opportunity, there has been an attempt by the security agencies, particularly the police, to criminalize protest. What I would have expected was the role played by the police in Lagos today, just like it did during the bad governance protest in August 2024, provide protection for the protesters, ensure that these protests are not hijacked by criminal elements who may want to take advantage of the protest to perpetrate crime. If this has not, if this has been done in Lagos successfully, I don't know why the police in other formations cannot emulate what the police have done in Lagos by ensuring that it provides cover and protection and ensure that protesters are orderly. What we saw in Port Harcourt from your visuals is not only disturbing, but it's shameful, very shameful, because these are even protesters who are very few in number, and you provided protection for them from their take-off point, only to get to the middle of the road and unleash assault on the same set of people that you are supposed to be protecting. Now, sometimes you want to imagine what comes on, what come up, with some of these characters in uniform sometimes, because the truth is that the men we saw in Lagos today are the men of the same police force. Why do you have so much, differences in their behavior like we saw in Port Harcourt?
I guess that's the question that a lot of persons are trying to find out answers to. I'll come back to you in a bit. Let me go to HK and ask this particular question, because while it is one of the issues that is being protested about, I'm talking about the Cybercrime Act. In Osogbo particularly, there were placards saying that they want that act repealed. I want you to speak to it and why it is peculiar for the youths of Nigeria to come out at this point to ask for that repeal.
Yes, because the youths have been at the receiving end of the Cyber, Crime Act. Of course, what it leads to is just the policing of thoughts. It hinders, the freedom of expression, which is a fundamental constitutional guarantee. It's one of those things that make us civilized. And so when you now have to express an opinion, and then the government now believes, the police believes it's their duty and responsibility, to punish you for expressing your thoughts, then it becomes deeply worrisome. The NUJ, Nigerian Union of Journalists, has been kicking against it seriously. We have seen the damage that it is doing to the members of the fourth estate of the realm. People are, incarcerated, arrested at whims, at the whim and caprices of government officials. And in those days, it used to be the issue of disciplining or dealing with journalists who government feels have misbehaved was within the preserve of the central authorities in this country, using the police and security forces. I mean, talking of the federal government. But now it has been democratized, if I was not, I even use that word. It has been liberalized. Now you have state governors who, whenever they feel slighted by any particular report, they can order for the arrest of a journalist or a citizen. We also have even local government chairmen coming into the act also, or even government officials, or even police, personnel themselves. You write something that is critical of maybe the IG, and then the police feels it's their responsibility to deal with you. We have laws in this country, and for as long as, you don't remove the basis on which they act with impunity, that is the Cybercrime Act, they will continue to do these things they have done. And that's why we have continued to kick against the Cybercrime Act and ask for it to be repealed immediately in this country.
All right, a quick one to Juan in this studio. I want you to talk about the Northern Youths. They came out, Northern Youth Council. They said why they sympathize with the cause, that they would prefer a more dialogue as an approach than protest and confrontation that might disrupt the fragile peace in the country. How is your movement reacting to this? Because most of the states up north did not take part in the protest.
The Northern Youth Council is at liberty to engage with government, however it so wishes, but it is not true that there were no protests in the north. There were protests in places like Adamawa.
Okay.
We had protests in Plateau State. There were protests even in Bauchi.
Okay, I'm being told we're out of time for this conversation. Yes, so what's the next step for you? You said this is the beginning, the tip of the iceberg and all of that. What are you planning to do next?
Yeah, we're coming out very soon. Like I said, this is a warning action, and we'll be back on the streets as soon as possible. And
do you plan to make the date open for the police to provide protection?
Yeah, it's a duty of police to provide protection. As a matter of fact, what they did in places like Rivers, Abuja, and including Yobe State, where 4 protesters were arrested, it was an embarrassment.
All right, Juan. Thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And of course, to Femi and Achike, always a pleasure to have you on the news. Thanks for speaking with us.
Thank you for having us.
The Federal High Court in Abuja on Monday granted 200 million naira bail each to Sirajo Jaja, the current Bauchi State Accountant General, and Aliyu Abubakar in a multi-million naira alleged laundering case instituted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, totaling 400 million naira in bail. Justice Obiora Egwuatu granted them bail with certain conditions while ruling on their legal team's bail request shortly after their arraignment of the same day. Now, according to the EFCC, Aliyu Abubakar, Jasfad Resources Enterprise, Bureau de Change operator, and Sirajo Muhammad Jaja, Accountant General of the Bauchi State Government, between August and December 2024, allegedly conspired to commit money laundering by transferring and converting public funds belonging to the Bauchi State Government from the Bauchi State Sub-Treasury Account domiciled in a financial institution into the bank account of Jasfad Resources Enterprise, contrary to and punishable under the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. To the foreign scene now, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has vowed to shelter British businesses from the storm of global economic disruption as he loosened electric vehicles targets for car makers impacted by US President Donald Trump's tariffs. The world's auto sector has been hit hard by Washington's sweeping new levies, which imposes a 25% tariff on vehicles imported into the United States. Starmer unveiled plans to give manufacturers more flexibility in transitioning to electric vehicles in a bid to boost the sector as it battles the higher costs of the levies. Meanwhile, President Trump has threatened China with an extra tariff of 50% on goods imported into the U.S. if it does not withdraw a countermeasure it announced on Friday. In a post on his social media platform, Truth Social, the U.S. president said he will introduce the extra tariff unless China withdraws its own 34% counter tariff on American goods, which it announced on Friday. Trump originally imposed a tax of 34% on Chinese imports last Wednesday as he announced tariffs on dozens of U.S. trading partners. If he does impose the additional 50%, U.S. companies will pay a total rate of 104% on Chinese imports. Let's talk about these tariffs. Nemeka Obieri, investment banking executive, joins me now to discuss this. Thank you for giving us your time. 50% tariff on China if it does not withdraw its 34% retaliatory tariff. Is this not a case of beating a child and telling him not to cry?
No, it's actually, we've said there is a tariff war going on. And what people must understand is very simple. It is a customer that is king in such kind of wars. We need to look at it contextually. I've read articles, people lampooning Trump, trying to explain why there is free trade and why he cannot wake up to slam tariff on China and other people. Now, look at the numbers. Last year alone, the U.S. suffered trade deficit of almost over 67% against the Chinese. Total U.S. imports from China was about $469 billion. Total U.S. exports into China was about $169 billion. You could see the imbalance. Of course, the U.S. is the biggest market, irrespective of how anybody may feel. It's a $20 trillion market. China is about $10 trillion. China, Europe consumption put together is not even as big as that of the US. That is how massive the US market is. And that is how massive everybody who wants to play will want to enjoy that market. Now, what is this tariff all about? The nations who are playing these games are nations that are manufacturing hubs, nations that are productive. Countries like Nigeria may not be in the right frame of mind or structure to participate in this kind of fight, because we practically produce nothing. We're a wholly import-dependent economy. Donald Trump is simply saying, for those who do not understand, I know if time will permit me, I'll break it down. There are 4 factors of production: human capital, land, equipment and machinery, and the funding, which is capital. The most critical of all these 4 factors of production is the human capital, because the human mind that can conceptualize to produce the machineries, the robotics, the AIs, the equipments. The other most important factor is the earth. There is nothing that is manufactured today, from the aircraft to the telephone that we are using, even to the TV gadgets, that are not extracted from materials from the earth, beneath the earth or surface of the earth, for agri-home manufacturing. Trump is saying there's nothing, it's not everything that America possesses. America is not endowed with all natural resources. He is simply saying, as a country, for any country to survive, the country must be able to a certain degree of, to a certain extent, be self-sufficient.
Right.
Trump is simply saying there are things we can produce in our country that manufacturers are shipping the jobs to China, to Mexico, because there are factors there of production that are cheaper. Human capital. And Trump is saying, if we continue to ship these jobs out, we will continue to suffer trade imbalance. We will continue to suffer trade deficit. We will continue to lose jobs. Let us put in place measures that will bring these companies back home, so that we will have productivity for those things that we can produce competitively at home.
All right, just quickly, I'm told we have less than a minute to conclude this conversation. What is the implication of this tariff on Nigeria's economy, especially for small businesses?
The implication is very simple. I will advise the federal government, because we don't even have any trade or sustainable manufacturing policy. Very simple. Those things that will require to bring into Nigeria that will help us to catalyze production, equipment, machineries, tractors, processing equipment. If we are smart, we should put 0 tariff on them. Those things that we can competitively produce here, with all the factors of production in place, we can put tariff on them. But unfortunately, we are not even at the industrial stage in this country. And it's very unfortunate that we don't even have any holistic plan on how we can industrialize Nigeria and make Nigeria a manufacturing and productive hub. So very simple. If I am Mr. President or those in charge of trade and investment in Nigeria, every equipment, every machinery, every processing plant required to catalyze production here should have 0 tariffs. That is the only way we can be able to compete with the rest of the world.
Nemeka, thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Business News is next after this short break. Just stay with us. Joanna is here with the latest business update. What are we looking at tonight, Joanna?
I mean, it's interesting to see the shift in, Nigeria's relationship with cryptocurrency. So bring you a story on that and much more after this break.
Business News in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
The cryptocurrency trading platform Binance Holdings Limited has requested that the Federal High Court in Abuja invalidate what it referred to as the alleged substituted service of the $81 billion economic loss fine, an unpaid income tax suit that the Nigerian government has filed against it. According to the lawsuit, even though Binance had a significant economic presence in Nigeria, it purposefully hid its business operations. The request was approved by Justice Ekwo, who also mandated that the replacement service be performed within 7 days. The judge subsequently adjourned the matter to April 30th, directing the FIRS to file its response to the motion. And in the fourth quarter of 2024, electricity distribution firm achieved a cumulative energy offtake performance of 94.61%. This is according to the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. 5 discos exceeded the 95% barrier in using the energy allotted to them under the Power Capable Capacity Scheme, the report claims. However, a number of discos underperformed by falling short of the 95% offtake threshold. Notably, with an offtake rate of 76.89%, Yola Disco had the worst performance. On Monday, a prominent South African politician charged the communications minister with attempting to weaken the nation's local ownership regulations in order to please international companies like Elon Musk's Starlink, who was interested in working there. The telecoms regulator Starlink parent firm SpaceX stated that the local shareholding regulation were a major obstacle and suggested that the 30% ownership threshold for licenses be reconsidered by implementing equity equivalent programs as a substitute. In a statement, Kasela Diko, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies, claimed that the minister was attempting to erode hard-won transformation goals by attempting to get around the act. And on the NGX, we're seeing negative sentiments deepening, especially in the light of global economic shifts, the tariffs, Trump's tariffs causing an effect on the markets. We're down a strong 1.23% today, 104, now below 105,000, 104,216.87 in the all-share index, and we're down to 65.488 trillion naira. Coming to sectoral performances, we're seeing all Tier 1 banks are in the red today, the FUGAs, and we're seeing that reflect down 5.48%. Insurance took a hit as well, down at 7.56%. Oil and gas took a hit. Aradel was down. Owando is also down significantly. Remember that they have broken regulations when it comes to submitting their financials again. Last time they were suspended. Will that happen again? I don't know, but we're seeing the stock lose significantly today, 10%. Consumer goods down 0.79%, and industrial goods is flat. That's it on business tonight. I am Joanna Mustafa. Tonight continues with Felicity.
Sports update is next, and Udoka is here. What's this about the Commonwealth Games for 2030? It's something about expression of interest?
Well, of course, Nigeria wanting to apply to bid for hosting rights for the 2030 Commonwealth Games, and this has caused a lot of criticism from fans across the nation. I'll bring you more details shortly.
Update brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
Of course, in sports, the Nigeria Olympic Committee announced it has met the March 28, 2025 deadline for expression of interest to bid for the 2030 Commonwealth Games. Nigeria can only commence a formal bid with the backing of the country's government. Nigeria lost a bid to host the 2014 Commonwealth Games to Glasgow. A statement released by the NOC spokesman, Tony Nezaya, said that Nigeria's bid for the 2030 Games in the capital city of Abuja will present a unique opportunity to showcase its development, enhance its global standing, and invigorate its sports culture. Nigeria last hosted a major multi-sport event, the African Games, in 2003 in Abuja. The next Commonwealth Games will again be hosted in Glasgow, Scotland, from the 17th to the 29th of March 2026. And in football, Shooting Stars Sports Club of Ibadan has denied claims that Ikorodu City players and officials were held hostage after Sunday's March Day 32 fixture at the Lekan Salami Stadium. In a statement, Shooting Stars clarified that both teams and match officials were asked to remain in the dressing rooms due to a tense and unsafe atmosphere outside the stadium. The club said the decision was a precautionary safety measure following reports of possible attacks. Shooting Stars also refuted claims that Ikorodu City players or their team boss were targeted, noting that they left under police protection. However, Shooting Stars condemned the attack on Ikorodu City supporters by hoodlums disguised as fans and reaffirmed its stance against violence in football. Côte d'Ivoire produced a statement performance on Monday to defeat Mali 4-2 in the final Group D clash at the CAF Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations, leapfrogging their opponents to finish top of the group and clinch a spot in the quarterfinals and the FIFA Under-17 World Cup in Qatar later this year. Despite the loss, Mali had already booked their place in the quarterfinals and World Cup after earlier wins over Angola and Central African Republic. Elsewhere in the group, Angola's thumping 6-1 win over the Central African Republic was not enough to push them into the quarterfinals, but it did secure a World Cup playoff opportunity as one of the best third-placed teams. Africa will be represented by 10 teams at the 48-team tournament. Burkina Faso, South Africa, Morocco, and Zambia have already qualified. Over to the UEFA Champions League now. Real Madrid will travel to London without 6 key players for the first leg of their game against Arsenal on Tuesday. Now, among those ruled out are midfielders Tchouaméni, there's also Daniel Ceballos, defenders Eder Militao, Dani Carvajal, and Ferland Mendy, as well as goalkeeper Andre Lunin. Tchouaméni is suspended for the encounter after receiving a booking in the previous round against Manchester City, while Ceballos and Mendy are still recovering from injuries. Lunin, who played a crucial role in the dramatic penalty shootout victory over Atletico Madrid in the last 16, has yet to return to full training, leaving Thibaut Courtois as the likely starter at the Emirates Stadium. Carvajal and Militao also remain unavailable, further depleting Carlo Ancelotti's defensive options. And that's a wrap on Sport Update. I am Udoka Njoko. Thank you for watching.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
Thank you so much. Who is Samuel Ojo? What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And don't mind them, it's because they see some dandy there, you don't see Samuel Ojo. Yeah, I don't know. It depends. Are you asking my dad or me? Who's trying to make money? My international passport? I didn't bring it today. You know, why? Are we going to the U.S.? Because you know I can run. Stop now, 2 stories now. It's not 2 stories. No, I don't have 2 Baba. How many things they inside
do 2 Baba? Why you go do Lopez for story when no?
No, you know, Lopez is in the news.
Time for entertainment. Sam Dandy is here. Who is the celebrity in focus tonight?
I mean, 2 Baba is in the news. We've heard the news. His mom has been in the news over the past 2 weeks, talking about him being missing. So we'll tell you what he thinks about that right after this quick break. Of course, Sam Dandy will bring you details in a bit.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
Let's get into entertainment. Nigerian music icon Innocent Idibia, popularly known as 2 Baba, has broken his silence on the swirling rumors surrounding his alleged disappearance and kidnapping. Now, this comes after weeks of public concern, including a petition filed by his mother with the Department of State Securities, of course, DSS, during a recent comedy show by comedian Acapella. 2 Baba playfully addressed the speculations, joking that the event was meant to raise ransom money with his supposed kidnappers. Now, the humorous remarks marked the first time he publicly acknowledged the situation, providing some relief and amusement to fans. Meanwhile, Natasha Osawaru, who has been frequently seen with 2 Baba during the controversy, also spoke out She denied holding the singer against his will and dismissed allegations of spiritual manipulation, including rumors about a beaded bracelet he wore. Now, despite this public appearance and light-hearted responses, neither Tubaba nor his family has issued a formal statement to clarify the initial reports or define his relationship with Natasha. This one's interesting. I don't know. Felicity, you've heard the news. You know,
I always have this cynicism to the almost morbid interest in the lives of celebrities. But on the flip side, you look at, they put their business out there so people will look. I like his music. I like the guy. Whatever comes, I wish him the best.
I mean, it is funny between those, of course, who like his music and then the controversy in recent times. Because he's Tubaba, he's a veteran musician.
He will never change from being Tubaba, whatever controversy comes. We just want him in health. Hope he can take care of his personal issues and give us good music.
That's the thing. The good music is the good part we all want to see. But I guess we'll have to wait to see if he drops anything new this year, 2025. But of course, if he does, we'll let you know right here tonight. My name is Sam Dandy. That's the most we can take on the show for tonight.
That's the news we have for you tonight. But before we go, let's take another look at the top stories. Nigerians defy police warning as they flood streets in nationwide protest against what they describe as bad governance. Labour Party's internal crisis continues as two factions hold separate leaders' meetings following Supreme Court judgment. We also brought you news that the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has warned US tariffs could have profound global consequences as Trump threatens China with new 50% tax. Do send us your eyewitness reports to the numbers showing now on your screen. You can follow us on all social media platforms at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, on Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.